Hello, and welcome back to my channel, Growing in Love. Today, I want to talk to you about your next phase or next thing in your relationship. Are you wondering what is next? And are you really at the moment struggling with what is? So you want more, things aren't how you want it to be, and you're not really sure how to move forward. What I call this, and this is from my training with Martha Beck, she calls this being in the change cycle. So we're in change when things in our lives are kind of topsy-turvy, things are changing. There's, we can't really find our footing with where we are in the moment, either or we are uncomfortable with where we are. We want things to change and it hasn't changed yet. So either it has happened or you're uncomfortable with it needing, things aren't right and you want it to change. So I want to start today with a little bit of a story about what's happening for me right now. So today is a pretty big day. It is my son Van's grade 12 graduation day. It's part one, so he's not actually doing the ceremony today, but we are going and we will be celebrating as he, dresses up. He'll be walking down the red carpet. Of course, my husband, the photographer, is going to be wanting to take a ton of photos as he walks this red carpet. And then, of course, being able to be with his whole graduating class, getting photos done at the legislature building. And yeah, just celebrating this massive moment in his life of finishing high school. So that's what's happening today. And it also, as I was thinking about it today, and really over the last few months, has been for me a time of change. So of course, as our children grow up and they don't need us as much as they used to, the way you run your day and the way you are with your partner and your day-to-day living needs to change as well. I mean, we just are not as busy or as preoccupied with children or, needing to do what we needed to do in the past for them. So we have been in this process of really uncomfortable times of trying to figure out why we were kind of out of sorts, why we were really kind of uncertain and not sure of how we were moving forward for the last, really, I'd say, maybe even more than a few months. I think it's been really since my son was in grade 11 and my daughter in grade 10. So things really rapidly started changing for us. And what I realized is we are in this phase and this opportunity to really recreate our marriage and to decide without it happening by default what we really want to create next for my husband and I. And it seems like this should happen naturally and we should figure out how to do it. But as we know, a lot of people struggle with the empty nest feeling, right? What do you do? And maybe even sometimes find out you don't have anything left in common with the person left behind with you, your husband, right? So you don't really, you haven't paid attention to each other. Maybe there's a lot of disconnect or something going on where it's not feeling great. And you're not even sure if this is going to be something you want moving forward into the next phase of your life, because how you are with your partner doesn't feel very good. It's not very satisfying. It might be quite boring, might be flat. You might feel like you've done everything you possibly can with your partner, and it just doesn't feel like something you want to do anymore. So what I'm here to say is that is a natural feeling. And it's not to say that, maybe you are finding that you're not meant to stay together moving forward. But for most of us, this feeling of discontent and uncertainty is really signaling that you are ready to transform your current situation into something else. And we don't like doing that as humans. We want things to be stable and to be clear and consistent. and know what to expect. So when in these big times of change, it doesn't feel very good. And when we can understand that this is just a time of change and not necessarily meaning that things are not working and can't work. So today, what I want to do is I want to talk to you about 5 steps that you can follow, you can implement in order to create your what's next. So the thing that you want your relationship to be, the goals you want to have, so that moving into the future, you are excited and reinvigorated. The relationship is feeling exciting again, and you are excited to see what's next for you. So let me go over these 5 steps. So number 1 is get conscious. Now, if you know about me and the things that I offer, one of the most important things I offer is a membership called Get Conscious. Now, these are for people who have worked with me and gone through my programs, and want to continue to get conscious and to know how to move forward from a very aware place, right? We're not sticking our heads in the sand. We are very clear about what it is we are thinking, feeling, our patterns, and how to spot when we need to change them. And this is all about growth, which is why here in the YouTube channel, Growing in Love, is, really about helping you grow by getting conscious. So step 1, you need to get conscious about your current situation. So like I said, for me, in my marriage and my relationship, our children are growing up. They don't need us in the same way. We are having to think about what it is we actually want to do together. What lights us up? What is something that really needs to change? So this is an important time to think about what are your patterns? What is it that you don't like? What are the thinking you are doing that feels not great? Like maybe there's a lot of resentment or irritation, or you don't like your partner very much, or the things that they do. This is important to know. You want to get clear, get conscious of what's actually going on for you right now. And I do want to use the garden analogy to help you see each of these 5 steps. So in Get Conscious, the first step, the analogy is you take a look at your garden and you see that it's maybe a bit overgrown. Maybe you're really not liking some of the plants that have been there for a long time. You're wanting, it feels like things aren't as exciting or as interesting or pleasing to the eye. Maybe some have died. Maybe some are just past their prime. And maybe you realize that you just haven't been giving your garden much attention. This is the same in our relationship. So over time, things aren't as, we kind of are bored with things. We might not be making the effort as much as we used to. We don't feel the excitement about it. And so things begin to get a little drab, a little bit not so pleasing. And this is very similar to how we feel in a relationship. And when things happen in our life where it changes, this is a really amazing opportunity to reinvent what you've got. So step 2, this is part of that. So step 2 is where you want to connect to what you want moving forward. And this is the time, first of all, that you really want to think about desire. What would be the most amazing thing you could have moving forward? So if I talk about my husband and I, we have been playing around with the idea of, again, moving back to Mexico. We're going to be having to have a different home. We have this one that we're in is not permanent. Where do we want to live? What do we want it to look like? What do we want to do together? What do we what do we want to do in the evenings when it's just the two of us? And even if our kids are here still, they're in their rooms or they're with their friends. So what do we want to do together? What lights us up? What is fun? And so we've been playing around with getting clear of what it is that we actually want our relationship to look like. So once we've got to this point of really feeling excited about it. And remember, at the beginning, you want to just play with um, exactly what it is you want. We're not in the creating mode yet. We're just dreaming about it and really feeling the excitement of what ideas we're coming up with. And, my husband and I even sat down and we pulled out magazines and we looked at kind of the houses we want and maybe the places we wanted to travel to, and just kind of thinking about what do we want to do big picture and also day to day. What does our day to day look like? How do we want it to be? So as you're thinking about this, you'll nail and land, I should say, on something that it is you really want to create. Now, it's okay if this isn't done with your husband. So for my husband and I was the one, of course, I'm the life coach. I'm excited about this stuff. This is what I love to do. He wasn't so much interested in all this kind of planning. So I often did this on my own, and we needed to start there. And then over time, he really liked seeing the results in me and how I changed my reality and who I was to him. So he kind of got on board with wanting to create together. And this is the journey you can go in your relationship. It's okay if you don't do it together at the beginning, because often there's this disconnect or you're on a different page and it's hard to plan together. Don't be bothered by that. Start with yourself and really get clear about what you want and begin incorporating that into your day-to-day life. So we'll get to that part next. So I want you to pick in step 2, what one thing you want to start to focus on. And so for my husband and I, it's really about where do we want to live next. And so we have this goal that we have 3 years that we are going to be creating this goal and thinking about it. And then if we put it into the garden analogy, right? It's looking at your garden and deciding, okay, this is what we have right now, but what I really would love, maybe is this garden with, and I'm thinking about pots and having different kinds of plants in them. And so you can totally change your entire garden, just like you can totally change your relationship. This is the power that we have. We can reinvent things when they're flat and boring and not working the way we want them to. So think about what it is and choose what it is that you want to work towards. Now, this is just a quick reminder that it's not to say that you need to 100% know what you want to focus on, but pick something, and as you start moving towards it, you'll get clarity if you're on the right track or not. So we're going to talk about that one in step 5. All right, so step 1 was get conscious. Step 2 is get clear on what goal you want to be focusing on as you move forward in your next thing that you want to create. Then step 3 is you need to know how to measure it. So just like anything that's happening, if we don't really know if we're moving towards the thing that we want, we can get really discouraged. We can lose track. We can feel like we're never getting anywhere and give up or continue to get frustrated. And so to prevent that, what you want to do is have a way to measure if you're moving towards your goal. So this is easy if it's concrete, right? We know we'll have reached our goal of where we want to live once we're living there. Once we've made this decision and we've taken all the steps we need to take in order to have this new place to call home. But that can include things like, maybe it's you want to have renovate your home, or you want to go on more vacations, or you want to have sex more often, or maybe it's you want to, so something really concrete that you can measure because you can see it happening. Yes, we're having sex every week and it's, so I can measure that. But there's also things that you might want that aren't so concrete, and they're more difficult to kind of see when you've reached them. So in these examples, you need to actually create something so you can measure it. And don't be afraid that it's not, if it's a feeling, how do I know if I've got the feeling, right? There are ways you can measure it. So you can do things like create a scale from 1 to 10. And every day or whenever you feel it's the amount of time you want to, you can measure, how am I doing? So let's say the example is you want to be more appreciative for your husband, to your husband. So you can notice if that is something out of from 1 to 10, you feel like you were really appreciative of your husband that week, right? And you can measure that and you can begin to notice. Now, these numbers are very subjective, and it's not really the number that is important. It's measuring it and checking in and seeing where you are, and then being able to see how you're moving and what's going on as you move towards creating this better goal for yourself, or the goal that you want. Okay, so that's number 3, choosing how to measure it and having some way to document your progress as you move towards the goal that you're creating. Now, step 4 is break this big goal into smaller goals. So, obviously things like, for me, looking for where we're going to live, there's a lot of small steps. We're not going to see a result of that for at least 3 years. So how do I stay motivated? How do I continue to feel excited about it? How do I not give up and feel frustrated that I'm not getting towards it? If I wait and only feel success when I get that final result of having a new home, it might be hard to hold on to it. So when we break it into little steps, then we can have the small wins along the way and seeing that we are progressing as we move forward. So, not only that, but big changes often require things like a lot of growth, being able to understand why you're stuck and what's getting in your way. These things take time. So you want to be able to really break it down into little steps to see, how do I get where I want to go, and how can I break that into the little tiny steps along the way? Often we struggle to break them down small enough. So don't be afraid to absolutely break down a goal into tiny steps. And if you're not doing it, it means it's probably too big. So break it down into something smaller. So for me, right, first of all, we've been playing with, what do we actually want? Where do we want to live? Where in the world do we want to live? And so we've worked through that. And then it's like, what kind of living do we want it to be? Do we want to be, what kind of home do we want to be living? Small home, big home, what is it we want? So we had to go through that together and really, looking at photos, talking about it, getting clear of what together worked for each of us. So that's things that we've been able to do. First of all, with the first step is, what do we actually want this house to look like? Then the next step, right, is it might be, what do we need to have in place in order to get this home? So we have to, and we're continuing right now to break these steps down to figure out what it is that we want. Now, if it's something like the goal is to feel more connected or to have more fun in your relationship, that might be something where it's, what's the first thing that we can do right now that feels fun? Something, maybe even noticing what it is that we used to do that was fun, and trying something small. So you can break it up into these little steps and continuing to measure, which was step 3, of how you are doing it. Is it actually beginning to happen, right? Are you moving along this journey to creating what you want? Okay, so and this, to bring it back to the garden analogy, it's all about knowing, right? Of course, when we are gardening, there's different seasons, different times. When we plant something, we don't get upset when it doesn't grow. I mean, sometimes I do, but we understand that things are going to take time. It's not the season in fall for things to bloom and to grow. compared to spring. Now things are starting to really blossom and you're seeing rapid growth. So this is the same in relationships. And sometimes it takes months or even years in order to really see the change in the growth that needs to happen in our relationship in order to get the result that we want. So you want to be able to break your garden even into, okay, well, look, I planted all my seeds. I've got new soil. I've got the plan. Whatever the steps are that you would do in your garden, it's similar to how you want to do it in your relationship. What are the steps I need to know and begin taking that will get me to the result that I want? Okay, so that's number 4, breaking it into smaller goals. And then the last one, which is really important, and we often tend to ignore it, is to check back in often. Know what your goal is. Check and see where you're at. And this is really important because it gives us the information we need to know if we're on the right track, if it is actually the track we want to be on. Is this what we want to create? The more information you get by taking the steps in the smaller action, the breaking down the goal into the smaller parts, gives you the information you need to know if you're on the right track. We can't always know everything, of course, about our whole journey, but we can, in any moment, check in with how we feel. Is it working? Are we stuck? Is this absolutely not something I want? And you check it regularly, right? You check in and see. And this is where you can look at what am I thinking? How am I feeling? What action steps am I taking? Is it easy? Is it hard? Am I avoiding it? Is this something I really actually don't want to do and I'm just trying to force myself to do it? So all this information will help you to tweak and shift and change your journey of whatever it is you're creating, right? So we can, if I take it to the garden analogy, we can see that we might have planted something and it's really not thriving in the shady place where you have it. And it obviously needs to be moved to more sun. Or you realize you just haven't been consistent with watering because you don't have a good system or something working well, or you might need to hire somebody to help you, whatever that might be. So it gives us the information we need to keep moving towards the goal that we want. All right, so these are those 5 goals, 5 steps. So number 1, again, was get conscious, know what your current situation is, how you feel, what you think, what's actually going on right now. And then number 2 was to connect to what it is that you want to create moving forward. What is that desire? And choosing that goal that you're going to work towards. Then number 3 is know how to measure it. Find a way to measure your success and your movement so that you can keep motivating yourself and seeing that you are progressing. Then break that big goal into small little goals so that you can have wins along the way and you can see that you are moving, and that's what you can measure as well, right? See that, oh yes, I have completed this part and this feels really good. I'm on my way to where I want it to be. And then number 5, check back in often and use that information to help guide you again and more clearly moving forward. All right, so these 5 steps you can use when there's any kind of goal that you are moving towards it in your relationship or in any area of your life. But it does require us to really acknowledge where we're at and to be truthful to ourselves and to be the creator in your life. Own that you can create what you want. Some changes are harder than others and they take longer, or there's a lot more steps involved. And we don't even know why we might be stuck at some point. So what I want to offer today is you can book a free love breakthrough session, and I can help you find out where you are stuck and what you need to create that breakthrough to get to the result of the goal that you want. I will put the link, I'll put the link in the comments below for you to access where you can book in a free love breakthrough session, and I can help you work through that. And also, please like the video if you enjoyed it and you got something out of it, or let me know any comments about what you're thinking, maybe what you've even decided on as a goal, and maybe how you've measured it. Share anything that you want. I'd love to hear, because we're all, we all have great ideas on how we can do this and help support each other as we create these big changes for ourselves. All right. So I look forward to hearing your comments, and subscribe or like to my channel, and check out the link if you would like to book in a free love breakthrough session. All right. We'll talk again soon. Bye for now.